Laughter. It is the nightmare no parent ever prepares for. A sudden medical catastrophe, an unsolved medical mystery, and a cruel diplomatic clock ticking down against an impending border wall. 90 Day Fiancé fan favorites, Kenny Niedermeyer and Armando Rubio, are living through every parent's worst fear right now in Phoenix, Arizona. Their 3-year-old daughter Hannah has been rushed back to the emergency room as her physical symptoms dramatically worsen following a sudden, unexplained brain bleed. With doctors still searching for answers and an emergency U.S. visa set to expire, this loving family is fighting a two-front war against time and international bureaucracy. Here is everything happening right now in this horrifying unfolding situation. Just 2 weeks after being released from a specialized pediatric intensive care unit, Hannah's fight took a sudden and terrifying turn for the worse this Friday. Heartbreakingly, her physical symptoms began to rapidly escalate, leaving Kenny and Armando with no choice but to rush their 3-year-old daughter straight back into emergency care. Inside the emergency room tonight, a family holds its breath as Kenny and Armando sit at her bedside praying for answers that refuse to come. During her initial hospital stay, doctors ran exhaustive tests for days on end. Yet, the true source of the sudden brain bleed remains a complete and terrifying mystery. Hannah was originally discharged under heavy medication designed to strictly manage brain swelling and prevent life-threatening seizures. But with this sudden, cruel deterioration throwing their world right back into chaos, her parents are left confronting their ultimate nightmare. A high-stakes medical crisis with an unknown cause unfolding inside the sterile walls of an ER while the clock continues to tick. Hannah remains under constant watchful care in Arizona as a team of specialists scrambles to run a relentless battery of new medical tests. At just 13 years old, she is forced to endure a daily battle against debilitating physical symptoms that would shatter full-grown adults, struggling through partial vision loss, severe body weakness, and the terrifying unknown of what her body is doing next. Before this sudden, alarming turn for the worse, Kenny and Armando were readying themselves for the long haul. They had been bracing for a grueling journey ahead, preparing to spend at least a full month in the Phoenix area so Hannah could undergo intensive physical rehabilitation, aimed at helping her regain her sight, rebuild her muscular strength, and navigate basic daily tasks. But any hope of a simple recovery path has been entirely derailed by the fact that the core medical cause remains completely unsolved. Even after enduring a delicate, highly complex brain angioplasty during her harrowing stay in the intensive care unit, pediatric specialists are still scratching their heads. They remain completely baffled as to what triggered the catastrophic brain bleed in the first place. Every preventative anti-seizure treatment, every heavy dose of anti-swelling medication, and every high-tech brain scan is merely a shield against the symptoms, not a cure for the root cause. As Hannah bravely navigates endless hospital corridors and battery after battery of tests, Kenny and Armando are left sitting in the quiet panic of a hospital room, forced to wait for answers that doctors simply do not have yet. As if standing by helplessly while their daughter battles a terrifying, unexplained medical mystery wasn't already enough to break their hearts. Kenny and Armando are simultaneously fighting an agonizing ticking clock on a completely different front. The United States immigration system. Right now, a cold, unyielding diplomatic deadline is hanging over this family's head, threatening to rip them apart at the exact moment they need each other the most. When the crisis first began, Armando was finally granted a highly restricted, temporary emergency humanitarian visa, a bureaucratic lifeline that allowed him to desperately cross the border and finally sit by his daughter's bedside. But that lifeline is rapidly fraying. That emergency visa is set to officially expire this Sunday, and the anxiety surrounding that date is casting a dark shadow over every moment they spend in the hospital. Let that sink in. As Hannah lies in an emergency room in Phoenix undergoing exhaustive testing and battling severe physical setbacks, the calendar is mercilessly counting down. If border officials and immigration authorities deny his urgent plea for an extension, Armando will be legally forced to walk out of those hospital doors, leave his sick child behind, and return across the border to Mexico immediately. The family is currently trapped in a grueling, high-stakes web of border negotiations, frantically working with attorneys to plead their case to a system that often operates with automated indifference. The sheer thought of Armando being torn away from his daughter is unimaginable. It would mean separating a father from his little girl during the scariest days of her life, while forcing Kenny to remain in Phoenix to navigate this catastrophic medical emergency entirely alone. Kenny would be left to decipher complex doctor reports, make massive medical decisions, and comfort a terrified 3-year-old without his husband by his side. They are fighting a devastating two-front war, one against Hannah's own body and one against a relentless bureaucratic machine, and time is rapidly running out. Through partial vision loss, severe physical weakness, endless sterile hospital corridors, and the looming terrifying threat of immediate family separation, 3-year-old Hannah is showing a level of courage and grace that is truly holding her parents together. Despite every cruel obstacle thrown her way, against all logical odds, she is still smiling. A quiet, radiant proof of a spirit that refuses to be broken by a medical nightmare. Her extraordinary resilience isn't just an emotional comfort. It has been a literal medical catalyst from the very beginning. When Armando first managed to cross the border and step into her hospital room after their painful separation, the effect on her body was immediate and unmistakable. Kenny himself noted that the exact second her father reached her side, Hannah's vitals and overall physical progress surged forward by leaps and bounds. Her father's presence proved to be as crucial to her survival as any medication or monitor in that ICU, demonstrating just how deeply intertwined her healing is with having both of her parents right there beside her. Now, as they face this second terrifying stay in emergency care, that strength is being tested like never before. As a 3-year-old girl battling through severe physical deficits, Hannah continues to fight with a gentle bravery that leaves everyone around her in awe. But her parents know that her smile is a delicate anchor, holding their entire world together. For now, inside the quiet tension of an Arizona emergency room, this beloved family holds its breath as one, waiting desperately for clear answers from her medical team, and praying for an act of diplomatic mercy at the border that will keep them together to truly understand the profound, unbreakable bond holding this family together through this living nightmare. You have to rewind the clock and look back at the extraordinary foundation they built, long before hospital walls and border politics entered the frame. Widely considered one of the most genuinely loved, universally respected couples in 90 Day Fiancé history, Kenneth Niedermeyer and Armando Rubio didn't meet under the artificial spotlight of a reality television production. Their love story began in the quiet sanctuary of an online support group for gay fathers. At the time, Kenny was a dedicated father of 4 grown children living in Florida, while Armando was a young, heartbroken, widowed father in Mexico, pouring every ounce of his soul into raising his sweet, bright-eyed little daughter, Hannah. Despite a 26-year age gap and hundreds of miles of separation, their connection was instant, undeniable, and deeply emotional. They bonded over the shared joys and unique challenges of fatherhood, laying a foundation of unconditional trust long before they ever held hands in person. That undeniable spark ultimately led Kenny to make a life-altering sacrifice. In 2020, he packed up his entire life in America, said a tearful goodbye to his adult children, and moved to Mexico to build a home with Armando and Hannah on 90 Day Fiancé, the other way. Their path to happiness, however, was anything but easy. Moving to Mexico plunged the couple into a world of deeply rooted cultural conservatism, where Armando faced the agonizing, terrifying process of coming out to his traditional family. Millions of viewers across the globe watched through tears as Armando bravely laid his heart on the line. And as his father initially struggled with acceptance before eventually embracing Kenny with open arms, over the years, internet rumors and sensationalist headlines frequently claimed the couple had split. But those fake breakup scandals couldn't be further from the truth. Kenny and Armando have never broken up. Their real-life struggles were never about a lack of love. They were structural, logistical, and emotional hurdles. Fans watched them navigate massive, agonizing friction over whether to expand their family through surrogacy, debate whether to raise Hannah in Mexico City or Baja, and fight endlessly through strict international bureaucracy. Through every single hurdle, cultural shockwave, and legal roadblock, Kenny and Armando's marriage remained absolute bedrock. They forged a rare, unbreakable partnership built on mutual respect, deep patience, and a fierce, protective devotion to Hannah. The very same devotion that is currently being tested to its absolute limit inside an Arizona emergency room. That solid, rock-solid foundation of love and trust was pushed to its absolute limit in July 2026, when a normal afternoon dissolved into every parent's ultimate horror. While Kenny was miles away in Ohio attending a somber family funeral, a sudden health catastrophe struck without warning back home in Mexico. 3-year-old Hannah collapsed without warning, her body suddenly giving out as she suffered terrifying stroke-like symptoms, including acute partial paralysis and a visibly droopy face. The immediate horror of seeing a vibrant child lose control of her own body sent shockwaves through the family. Recognizing the extreme life-threatening severity of what was happening, local medical teams evaluated her and quickly realized the terrifying reality. Hannah was suffering from an urgent active brain bleed. Knowing that local facilities weren't equipped to handle a neurological crisis of this magnitude, doctors made a critical life-saving call. They ordered Hannah to be immediately airlifted across international borders, directly to a specialized pediatric intensive care unit in Phoenix, Arizona. The diagnosis set off a chaotic, frantic, multi-city scramble for two helpless fathers, caught completely off guard. Thousands of miles away, Kenny received the devastating phone call and immediately abandoned his travel plans, rushing straight from Detroit to Phoenix to meet the air ambulance. Meanwhile, back in Mexico, Armando was left reeling in panic, forced to watch his little girl fly away in a medical transport while he scrambled to gather documents, contact authorities, and race toward the US border to be by her side. In a matter of hours, their world had completely fractured, plunging them into a terrifying medical nightmare spanning multiple states and international borders. As Hannah's medical helicopter,